Welcome back to me just talking and calling this a podcast, episode 4. So, in this episode, we'll go over Loki season 1, episode 4. And again, if you just want to follow along while I'm going through this episode, watching through this episode, and commenting, for me, I'm playing this at 1.23 times speed, and the episode length is 47 minutes and 4 seconds. So, starting off the episode, another recap of everything that's happened so far. And I do like the recaps focusing on very important details in the story so far. Little bits and pieces that they'll go into more depth within the episode that's upcoming. And of course, in the last episode, we ended off with Loki and Sylvie trying to change things, but then the arc just completely was destroyed. And I really like the scene of the guy falling to his knees in the background. So hopefully, this episode I'll keep more on track with just talking about the episode and not going off onto tangents about a whole bunch of other Marvel stuff. But I mean, it starts off with a Marvel intro thing with literally all of the characters and all of the things that have happened so far as we get the Marvel logo showing. It just primes my brain to have all this stuff in it. Episode begins in Asgard, and we get to see Sylvie playing with her toys. And Ravonna is the one, it looks like, that takes her away. And putting the device that destroys that timeline right next to her toys. All of Asgard, all of the people she knew, all of them gone. Though I doubt she even knows at this point yet that any of that happened. I don't know if we ever see this guy who's taking the role of the judge, I guess. I guess he acts as judge, jury, and executioner, or just judge and jury, and then the execution room is somewhere else, or somebody else does it. And we get to see what appears to be the timekeepers as Ravonna walks in to that room. I think I said previously that she might know that Kang actually existed. Might be wrong about that. I might have just misremembered. Really interesting. It almost seems like she's just trying to hold this entire place together. And I don't know, it must be so much stress to be seemingly in a managerial position or somewhat in charge. and have to deal with all of this stuff, all these variants, all these events that might occur across the entire timeline. There must be other people like her and judge-like people. It's just we don't see enough of how the entire organization seems to operate because it seems so empty. Maybe this division deals with very specific situations, and that's why they're more empty than others. Maybe if we go to some other place within the TVA, we'll see it's more full, dealing with like minor variants or minor changes to the timeline. Maybe they're always more busy, but it does seem, from what she's saying, they're quite busy and trying to keep up with all of the things that are happening. And now, about 6 minutes 40 seconds in, we come back to Loki and Sylvie and the moon that they're on being completely destroyed around them. Now it feels that Sylvie's opening up a lot more. It is very much possible. The universe does want to be free, and this bubbling up of variants is the multiverse trying to break free. It's really impressive that she did manage to continue to elude them, since literally everywhere she went from that point on would create a Nexus event. This is also a little bit odd, having this entire room with just the one monitor that kind of shows Nexus events occurring. Also, I'm wondering if this is like the entire timeline that they're looking at, or just like a portion of the timeline. I don't think it's clear from anything that they show what is actually on that monitor. I also don't really understand why it's just one monitor. If it's like millions of years of time, that's a very small monitor to display such a large range. Even billions of years. Them both talking honestly again, one another. Clearly Loki admires Sylvie a great deal. It's still also odd to me that this scene is creating some sort of Nexus event. It's almost like this should be something completely different. Of course, even they're saying that this is odd, the way this branches. And because of that, they managed to find them and now rearrest them. Loki and Mobius bickering again. It's really interesting that he did take the time to say that the TVA is lying to him, telling Mobius the truth. What is the truth? But obviously, Mobius is never going to believe that, at least right now. And that just absolutely sucks. Slap, kick and crotch. And clearly, if they can do this to people, if they could just put them in these time loop memory things, I wonder how many other people or variants are stuck in something like this, and why. What's the point of doing something like this instead of just killing him? Because they were just gonna execute him anyways. So why put him in this type of prison, which this is essentially a prison? And what constitutes putting any variant in something like this? Like, even if this is an interrogation tactic, why would you ever need to interrogate a variant? Like, what was a chamber like that used for in the past? Like, there would be no reason to need to interrogate anybody. You just take them or just erase them. And if you do take them, you'd end up erasing them anyways. There would be no need to know anything that they know that you can't already probably just figure out, and you just wouldn't need to know anything from them. You just need to erase whatever variations existed to keep the sacred timeline sacred. And really interesting that everybody Sylvie seems to have used her powers on may very well start having memories of them before being in the TVA without her directly, I think, trying to bring up any sort of memories in them. And then some more deep honesty from Loki. And there is this theme throughout the entire series of, he can't change. He was born the god of mischief. He'll always be the god of mischief. He's always meant for a certain role. But at the same time, even though Mobius seems to say and enforce some of this, he also says the opposite, that he sees how much potential Loki has. And then some interrogation, trying to figure out about Sylvie. Not partners, he's not working for her. It was a means to an end. Yeah, why does he want to know exactly? Like, clearly it's a Nexus type event that they'd never seen before, never, I guess, encountered in their entire time of being part of the TVA, being agents. But does it really matter since they fixed it? Very likely fixed it. Absolutely brilliant from Mobius. Just casually throwing out, yeah, she has been pruned. He knows exactly what he's doing. We need to see more of B-15. And also, it's weird that she doesn't have a proper name. It's just called B-15. Is it a sick, twisted romantic relationship if two variants of the exact same being fall for one another? Even though he says you fell for yourself, technically, it's not the same person. They've lived completely different lives. They have completely different feelings and emotions and everything else. So it's not like him falling for himself exactly. But she is technically also a variant of Loki. And of course, Loki breaks and then starts saying all of the stuff that everybody in the TVA is a variant. They've always been kidnapped from their various timelines. But like I was saying, it's it's an awkward situation where they are variants of one another falling for each other. But to be completely honest, I don't really care. I don't think it matters at all, and I think they should be happy together. And now, of course, B15 is seeing, or probably remembering and thinking about everything. Takes Sylvia with her. And now we cut to Mobius and Bona. They finally close their case. Unfortunately for them, it's not that easy. It's not over yet. I don't know if it's necessarily confirmed, but it might be confirmed in season 2, but again, it doesn't really matter. If Sylvia is actually in any way like genetically the exact same being, if any of that even matters for different timelines or multiverses or anything like that, or if that even matters for an Asgardian or a Frost Giant, because again, they're not human. They're like completely different beings altogether, so having that type of relationship, even if they were genetically, if genetics even matter, the exact same being, it may not even matter. And maybe that's just me making excuses and wanting to see them happy. But again, I don't really care. Mobius questioning stuff a little bit. Very good. I'm pretty sure Mobius had been questioning a lot of things about the TVA for maybe many years. And it's possible there are other TVA agents in similar positions. But once he met Loki, once he was doing battle with Sylvie, I think a lot was going on. In this type of situation, I think it's just easier for somebody like him to push down any of those doubts and just focus on the mission. It's just all about the mission, all about getting the mission done. It's basically war, and you need to, fight until you win. And any doubts, any questions, anything else that you have, you just bottle that up, push that down, not think or talk about that. But this is a very interesting situation because once everything calms down and the mission is over and you've succeeded, that's when those thoughts come flooding back in. And clearly, Mobius himself has been convinced enough to do what he did here in this scene, to switch his tempad with hers. He clearly has a drive to find out what the truth is and what's actually going on here. And of course, Sylvie's saying she can't create memories. Explaining again that they're all variants. She wants to know so badly she's willing to trust Sylvie to come all the way here and show her her before memories or unlock her before memories. And the what now question. That's kind of what I expect in season 2. Just like B15, a lot more variants or a lot more TVA agents will have to come to terms with that question. I think honestly for Mobius, he may choose to stay with the TVA and try to form it into something different, and I kind of want to see that happen. And now Mobius seeing Z20. And clearly Ravonna is freaking out and knows a lot more than she was letting on before. Of course, now Mobius. Basically breaking Loki out of this place, and now they hatched their plan to take down the TV. Hunter C20, the correct name. I kind of hope we also see more of her. Of course, he wants to go on his jet ski. I have a feeling whoever he was before, he did probably like jet skis back then. It's interesting some of these other TVA agents, even though they heard everything he said, it clearly didn't affect any of them. I wonder if these are just a different type of agent, that they're brainwashed or changed in some other way, or not. And they are the same as all the other agents, just like Mobius, just like everybody else. Sylvie asking if Loki's okay. Very nice moment. asking what her Nexus event was, why she was brought in. I'm pretty sure Ravona's lying there, saying she doesn't remember. Just trying to mess with Sylvie. But of course, none of that matters. All of this again is just a show. Like, what's the point of bringing them before the timekeepers? The fake timekeepers. And now B-15 shows up and frees them. It's also weird that there are guards in here. What's the point of having these particular guards stand inside the timekeeper room? Obviously, because the timekeepers are fake things that, you know, if somehow. Well, that's the other thing. How could anybody even make it this far? So it kind of doesn't make sense that they exist in here. Because there shouldn't be a possibility of anybody even getting this far. And if anybody does get this far, are those 4 people enough to stop whoever manages to get here? And now, of course, we find out they're all fake. They're just robots being controlled by yet somebody else. Yes, who created the TVA? Obviously, we already know that it's Kang. It's so nice seeing Loki just struggle to try to say his feelings to Sylvie. Clearly, he's completely changed by this point. He's a very different individual. And Sylvie now demanding to know everything. It's... I think I've seen that trope used before in other media, where you get to like the final, or what you think is like the final bad guy or the main person pulling the strings, and then it's not them. There's somebody else behind it all. I think it's pretty common, but I do really like how it was played in this series, where at this point you assume that all that propaganda you're being fed had some truth to it, because it's propaganda in two senses. In the one sense, it's like, oh, the TVA is all good and doing the right thing and making sure variants go away so that, the timeline is kept sacred and all of that to make sure something worse doesn't happen. But it's also propaganda in the other sense, where it's a lie that it's the timekeepers who did that and it's the three beings that did all of this and fixed everything and made everything peaceful again. Which is an odd lie to tell, because you're telling it to the TVA agents. And why replace the truth, which is its Kang, with the lie, which is its three timekeeper beings? What's the point of shifting it like that, making him one step removed, when it wouldn't really matter one way or another? And I like that after the credits, you get to see Loki get up, and he's not actually dead. And an awesome scene of four other Lokis staring at him. And you could tell that they're Lokis because they have the horns. Classic Loki. So they must, of course, be Lokis. Really awesome episode. And I am, of course, a fan of Loki and Sylvie being a couple, being together. That is something that I ship very strongly. And to be fair, nothing really matters. It, in the end, you need to take a step back and realize that, these are two godlike beings that are aliens from a completely different world. They work in a completely different way than humans work. So whatever feelings you might have of two humans being genetically identical being together, two variants of the same human, it probably shouldn't apply to beings like those two. Especially knowing how the pantheon of gods kind of were in the mythologies that we know, regardless of how the mythologies of the MCU actually work, though I'm pretty sure the mythologies are supposed to be one-to-one, because the humans within the MCU and the Earth within the MCU have the same beliefs and mythologies and histories, for the most part, that we have. So, knowing all of that and the wild things that they got up to, it shouldn't really be any kind of shock, or it shouldn't really be awkward or icky or weird that these two variants fall for each other and could end up together. I just hope they're happy in the end. That's what I hope for. Same with all the other characters in the MCU. I just really hope that they get a good ending where they are actually happy, or even if they end up being killed in some way, at least having it be a decent ending for their character and for their character's arc being complete in some sense. I would rather that than some kind of incomplete, they just get killed for apparently no real reason, and then that being it, the character's just gone. I really would dislike if something like that happened to any characters. It's already happened to characters that I really liked, and main series characters within the MCU. I just hope that going forward they don't really do that as much, or just don't do that at all. Because it just doesn't make sense. Bridging a character just for the sake of it, just to try to drive the plot forward, or try to motivate other characters to, do what they need to do, that's just, it almost seems like a waste of a character. It is a waste of a character. And it seems like it's just unnecessary in this day and age of storytelling, for movies in general. Or not just even movies, like books and other media. You just don't need to do something like that. Sure, you could kill off a character, but just for the purpose of driving forward the plot in some way, or to motivate some other character. It just doesn't make sense to me. But I will end that here because the episodes are getting quite long, and I have 2 more episodes to go before tomorrow's season 2 launch. And I need to go over the trailer as well for season 2 to get in my predictions because I haven't been spoiled for anything. So I will end it here.